What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you my first impressions of BioShock 2, the sequel, of course, to the original BioShock, which came about 3 years after the original. And it's certainly an interesting title. This is actually the first time I've ever played it. I haven't played the BioShock series previously, so I've been making the move to actually go through all of them, and of course share some of that experience with you. Broadly speaking, I would say my first impressions of BioShock 2 are that it aims to tighten up some of the less positively received things from the original title, while also mixing up some of the core gameplay elements. Though, at the beginning here, it is worth mentioning that I am playing the remastered version, which is notable mainly because it did not carry forward the original game's multiplayer mode. Not that I really would have been able to check that out anyway, as the servers, while still technically online, are very much so underpopulated, let's say. And another interesting thing about this title is that, technically speaking, it is from a different developer. However, a lot of the same people did work on this one that worked on the original. The first game had a very rocky development cycle, after which several people left Irrational Games, with a few of them landing at 2K Marin, a new studio with Take-Two Interactive, that went on to develop BioShock 2. And given the widespread critical acclaim that the first game received, that was certainly no easy task. So I'm curious, over the course of this game, how well it seems they have managed that. But here at the beginning, we kick the game off taking on the role of Subject Delta, a Big Daddy as it were, but also a very old one, back when the Big Daddies and Little Sisters were bonded together as pairs more so than interchangeable units. And in a short scene towards the beginning, we see this game's antagonist take away our little sister while forcing us to kill ourselves, which takes place just before the big civil war in Rapture. However, the bulk of the game takes place about 8 years after the events of the first game, with our character seemingly being resurrected to track down our little sister in an attempt to escape Rapture, which forms the bulk of the game. However, it would seem in the wake of the events of the first title, our antagonist, Sophia Lamb, has largely taken over what remains of the city of Rapture, which is mostly dilapidated structures and psychotic citizenry. And as first impressions go, that's certainly a bold place to take the story. Putting you in the role of one of the main enemies from the first game is certainly an idea, but they do take that a bit farther in that we actually have to perform the role that Big Daddies do in-game, which is to protect little sisters while they harvest Adam from various corpses, which serves as the material to facilitate our gene-modifying plasmids, though naturally this is a little more involved than the first game. So as a Big Daddy ourselves, we first have to find a little sister, which involves forcibly taking one from other Big Daddies, and then we have to lead that little sister to various corpses with Adam to harvest, and then defend said little sister from the waves of splicers that will try to kill her. Though at the end, we do have the choice to again either harvest or save these little sisters, with the ending being largely dependent on what happens here, is my understanding. Though the overall reward scheme, I should say, does feel largely the same, with us then spending collected Adam upon things like upgrades to our ability to use plasmids and the plasmids themselves, in addition to all the various weapons we'll be collecting and improving as we move along. And speaking of weapons, the other thing I'm happy to report here is that people told me the gameplay did improve a lot from 1 to 2, and yeah, that's definitely true. While there are still elements of it that feel a little bit floaty, overall the gameplay here does feel much better. I am going into this one straight into hard difficulty, so I can knock out all the achievements and everything in one go. And I've got to say that feels like a very appropriate place to go into this one. It's providing a decent amount of challenge, and it forced me to get acquainted with the new weaponry kind of right away, though this game does still lack some, I would say, important FPS features like the ability to aim down sights, but once you get used to how the aiming and some of the intricacies of this particular game work, it feels very rewarding. Beyond that, though, it really does feel like they just tried to improve on BioShock without really changing up too much at the same time. For instance, they replaced the hacking minigame with a more timing-based one that happens in the heat of combat, which is honestly a lot more fun. And they also changed the research camera to, again, have you actively participating in combat to get the research off. So to sum up my first impressions and save some things for the review, BioShock 2 feels like it tries to refine the systems of the first game game without really reinventing the wheel. And as I go to review this one, I think what I'm going to keep in mind is just how close it sticks to that original formula, because I'm a few hours into it now, and most of what I've seen so far is just tweaked versions of the original gameplay without really adding anything that's genuinely new, outside of the story elements, of course. But either way, the gameplay is much improved, and BioShock was a great game by itself, so that's hardly a bad way to go. That said, if you're looking forward to the review, do remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz. I doubt this will take me very long, probably this weekend, maybe early next week at the most. But in the meantime, by all means, let me know how you feel about BioShock 2 down in the comment section below. That's going to do it for me, though. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.